This is the case of Dani for research 2. So our client Dani is a cisgender white woman who is 28 years old. Her target problem is stress, which manifested after she moved and changed jobs. The identified problem is stress. For Dani specifically, stress is defined as feelings of overwhelm, anxiety, and exhaustion. A clinically significant pattern of stress is having negative emotional experiences for most of the day for at least half the days every week, having thoughts of being unable to control or cope with the stress for at least half the days each week, and her subjective rating of the magnitude of her stress using a 7-point scale. I hypothesized that her stress was a manifestation of changing jobs, moving, and losing her church community. So we're going to focus specifically on the church community for this assignment. So specifically, as the number of relationships in her community decreased, her feelings of stress increased. We're going to be measuring stress by her affect, cognitions, and somatizations. We also created a 7-point Likert scale, ranging from I feel confident to I feel like this is going to be challenging to I feel like this is going to be impossible. Created some goals for her, basically just reducing her scores on those scales. This is a summary of the different measures that we're going to be using. The different components and measurement terms that we're going to be using to measure each of those indicators, the negative emotions, the negative thoughts, and the quality of her sleep. And we're going to be measuring the impact that those have on her friendships. Negative emotions are going to be reported on a scale from 0 to 3. An undesirable rating is high. To make the scoring more intuitive. Same thing goes for the negative thoughts. And then we're going to be reversing the scores to make it consistent with the sleep item, because more sleep is desirable. So high scores on the scale before they get reversed for negative emotions and negative thoughts are undesirable, and low scores are desirable. And then after we collect the data, we would reverse those scores so that a high score actually becomes desirable to be consistent with the sleep. This is what the scale would look like. We also created a qualitative item so that we can get a more holistic picture of what Dani's subjective experience is like, because if she's not experiencing negative emotions and negative thoughts, and she's experiencing good sleep, but she's still telling us she's stressed, then that shows us that our intervention isn't really working. We need to be measuring something else. This is the question that I designed for her relationships to estimate how many relationships she's having, because ideally, if the number of relationship goes down and the amount of stress goes up, then hopefully as the amount of stress goes down, hopefully her number of relationships will go up as well, or as if the number of relationships goes up, her stress will go down as well, hopefully. For the standardized scale, I picked the depression and anxiety stress scales. It is designed to measure depression, anxiety, and stress. Each emotion has a subscale, but as the researchers note, they're best used together because depression and anxiety are aspects of what is colloquially called stress. Here are some example items from the DAS. And this is information on how to score the DAS. For Dani, hopefully we would be aiming to get her into the normal range. I've got some psychometric data for the DAS. The DAS has been found to have high reliability, both in the test-retest type and internal consistency type. It has also been found to be valid through exploratory factor analysis and confirmatory factor analysis. So the DAS is a pretty solid measure. It has been normed in a sample that is very similar to Dani, the people of the United Kingdom. Dani is white, she's in her late 20s, she speaks English. She is pretty similar to the population that this has been normed with. For the intervention, I selected mindfulness because mindfulness can be practiced by anybody. I wanted to focus on using acceptance and commitment therapy because Dani's in a situation where it's not super plausible to change it. You know, she can't just move back home. So it'd be best for her to learn how to accept her current situation and accept the emotions that come with it and learn how to function in her new situation. So I selected acceptance and commitment therapy, and as the specific intervention within that therapeutic orientation, I selected mindfulness. I actually found a program that is specifically designed for reducing stress in healthcare professionals, which is a perfect match for Dani because she's a healthcare professional. Mindfulness is just paying close attention to your emotions, thoughts, and your body, and allowing yourself to focus on your present experience non-judgmentally. Therefore, it should be pretty easy and accessible. It shouldn't cost too much money. It should be easy for Dani to use. Studies have found that mindfulness can be really helpful at reducing stress in healthcare professionals and in parents, which Dani's both of those things, so it should be good for her. The first session of the intervention is going to consist of the first half of the first session of the 4-session program from the original intervention that I picked out, because in that one the first session is 2 hours long. In most clinic settings you're only going to get 1 hour, so we're only going to do the first half of that first session from that original intervention that we are borrowing from. So our first session is going to consist of brief psychoeducation about mindfulness, then 2 different exercises called the raisin exercise and the body and breath meditation, and then a call to practice at home, because it's really critical that Dani continues to practice at home. You know, use it or lose it. The connection is that our session is going to be focused on helping her learn how to decrease stress through the use of mindfulness. Hopefully by the end of our session she will understand what mindfulness is and know how to use it to focus on the present. She'll be able to apply the activities to her personal life and analyze her present experiences while performing mindfulness on her own. Quick agenda: we're going to do a welcome, psychoeducation about mindfulness, the exercise, a discussion, the second exercise, and then another discussion. We're going to let her know about the homework and give out the handouts. We're going to have her plan how to get around barriers that might prevent her from completing the homework. And then we're going to close out session, and of course time for notes. These are the instructions for activity 1. It involves paying attention to all the different sensory aspects of a raisin. What it looks like, what it smells like, what it tastes like, what it feels like, things like that. The second activity is similar, except you're focusing on your body while you do deep breathing rather than a raisin. So the data provided to us looks like this when it's graphed. Unfortunately, Dani's final score is not clinically significant. Fortunately, her objective has been obtained at the end of the intervention. Her score is lower than 5. She earned a 3. And as you can see on the graph, there was a decrease in score, which was the desired outcome. This is what she reported qualitatively. If you look at the general themes of each response, before she talks about how there's no balance, she's obsessing over work, comparing her life to what she used to have, isolating herself, some physical symptoms, and just this general feeling of dread and helplessness. Whereas after the intervention, she communicates that things have improved, but there's still some room for improvement. She's starting to connect with her coworkers, and she's hopeful about finding balance, and her self-esteem has improved. In terms of the quantitative findings from the standardized scale, It was a little difficult to find data for a normative sample, but I did manage to find some. Um, I can say that there was definitely a decrease in her score, which was the desired outcome, but if you look at the reliable change index, it says that there was not a reliable change, unfortunately. Implications and next steps. So our target problem was stress, and if we look at the different data from the different scales, we can say that in the individualized rating scale there was a reduction in stress, and Dani has reported in her qualitative questions that it has been a subjective reduction in her stress. However, if you look at the standardized scale, it's not as reliable. So ideally, we would like to keep going with the intervention and hopefully get those scores down even further and more consistently, as in the individualized rating scale, only 2 of those final data points were at a clinically insignificant level. I'd really like to see Dani maintain that score for a longer period of time before I feel ready to discharge her. I hypothesized that the number of relationships in Dani's community decreased, so her feelings of stress increased. Therefore, an effective intervention would be one that helps her build community. However, this stress makes that difficult to do, so her interventions were designed to decrease stress, which, according to the data, they successfully did. So her scores do indicate that some stress is still present, so like I said, I would like to continue with the intervention. But it seems overall that things are getting better. Reflecting on the project as a whole, I think I gained a more in-depth understanding of what it takes to create your own scale, and I definitely learned more about evaluating data, especially through using Excel, and it just reminded me of my personal opinion where I think more people need to be educated on statistics in school, because scientific literacy is not really what it should be, and I think that if more people understood statistics, that might be a little bit better. These are more references. Thank you so much.